Greetings. So I've been asking friends and family to send me their burning questions so that I can practice my nascent divination skills on them. And I got a really great one today from Joss. Joss is a woman in her 70s. And her question is, which I've written down here, when will my sons talk to each other again? So the background to this question is Joss has two adult sons, and these sons haven't really spoken, they haven't met for, I think, over a year, maybe a little bit longer. She calls them estranged. The reasons for this estrangement are, as is the case with siblings, many and various, but none of them cataclysmic. What it seems to mainly boil down to is that they're just different people, have different interests, have different lives, maybe even different core values in some way. And so don't really fundamentally have any kind of burning need or urgent need to talk to each other or be in contact with each other. But I guess this mother, like many mothers, would love her sons to have a close relationship, and she and her husband at the moment are going through a whole slew of difficult health issues. Joss has recently been diagnosed with early stage Alzheimer's and various other things, and I guess in her maternal heart she would really like to know that going forwards and after she has gone, that her sons will be there in some way for each other. So I'm going to do a hexagram, see what the I Ching has to say on this one. I'm very excited for this particular casting or divination because today my 3 new coins have arrived. Well, actually not that new. So these coins, you can use all sorts of coins. You can use the sort of traditional Chinese coins that are used often for in the I Ching with the circle in the middle, or you can just use, you know, sort of normal standard coins. And about a week ago I was thinking, well, you know, I have no problem with using the standard coins, but I wonder if there's a way I can make it a little bit more personal. And I thought, oh, I wonder, it might be interesting to get 3 coins that were minted in the same year that I was minted. And as I was not minted in these parts, to get 3 coins from my country of birth, which is South Africa. And I decided to go for 3 1-cent coins, mainly because on the tail side you've got this beautiful picture of 2 Cape sparrows with the 1 cent. Unfortunately, on the other side, you've got the kind of apartheid coat of arms. So with great pleasure, I have taken my permanent marker and blacked those out, also to make it easier to read the coins, but gives me no end of pleasure to sort of cancel or black out those, black out the heads, leaving the beautiful tails. Okay, so let's generate this hexagram and get divining. Here we go. When will my sons talk to each other again? All right, so that is a yang line, 2, 4, 7. Yes, a yang line. a solid line. That's the first line. One more time. When will my sons talk to each other again? I'm curious about this question too. Wow, okay. We've got three heads. So that makes a moving line. So it's another yang line, but it's a moving line, which means that that also generates a another hexagram. Here we go. Third line is another yang line, not a moving one. This is a yang line, which gives us three yang lines, which I believe are the trigram representing heaven. That's a nice one. Okay, when will my sons talk to each other again? Here we go. Oh, okay, we've got another moving line. So this is now a yin line. So this is a moving yin line, what is known as old yin. And this is now another yang line. And finally, when will my sons talk to each other again? Okay, two tails and a head, so that's another yang line. Which generates this hexagram. I will be back after popping out to the supermarket to buy some goodies for making soup and also charging my transmitter. Whilst I'm doing that, I will be back with the divination shortly. And we're back. Stanmore Common, my little neck of the woods, and here to do a couple of days later, because that soup took a bit of time in the making, lots of chopping of vegetables, but soup gets better after a few days. So here to do finally the divination for when will my sons talk to each other again, hexagram 9. And as I was walking into the entrance of Stanmore Common, thinking about this, thinking what I was going to say in a moment, and also thinking about these beautiful yarrow stalks that have just arrived that I ordered on Etsy, and you know, from that thought to, wow, I want to make my own yarrow stalks. I mean, not literally produce them, because that would mean having divine powers, but I would like to, you know, harvest and dry and maybe dye with a certain tincture, ancient or modern, some yarrow. And as I walked in, having that thought, da-da, I mean, it looks like yarrow to me, but of course, please tell me if it's not, and I will, you know, accept the cancellation. But wow! I am definitely going to come back when these seed heads have come along and plant some of this in my garden. Not just for the harvesting of yarrow stalks, but also I think it's just one of the most beautiful wild plants, such majesty and such height. Amazing. Let's do it here. So, walking up the hill, I saw this array, this bed of fireweed. I didn't know it was fireweed. In fact, I had to turn to the oracle and say, what is that? And it went, that's fireweed. No, it didn't. I turned to this oracle, GPT-4, and I said, what's that? And it went, rosebay, willow herb, fireweed. And as soon as I saw the word fireweed, it already felt as if the landscape, the elements, the spirits, if you like, of nature, the nature spirits, were starting to convey certain messages that you could say were divinatory, that they had some meaning to them that could potentially be conveyed. Because, you know, when you read on, fireweed, characterized by its tall spikes of bright pink to purple flowers, is commonly found in disturbed areas, such as roadsides, clearings, and recently burned or logged areas. And above the fireweed, we also have, it looks like it could potentially be a tree with foliage, but it's not, because in fact the greenery is behind it. It is completely denuded of all of its bark. It's almost, I guess, if a tree were to be sort of crucified, maybe that's what it is. It's sort of like a crucified or a calcified tree, a sort of a dead tree, which again seemed to somehow fit this divination that was mulling in my mind. You know, coming from Hexagram 9, the taming power of the small, and maybe in this sense that tree is the small that's going to rule this divination. Just checking Max is not going AWOL. When you have a blind dog, there is the potential for that. Max! Max! Thank you. Okay. So, hello. So, I'm a complete novice at these readings. So this is sort of, I guess, you know, after having done a few of them for myself, this is how I would do this one for Joss, which is throw the hexagram, and then really give heart, soul, and mind, as if one was reading a poem, I guess, to the relevant passages talking about the hexagram, but particularly dwelling, to begin with, on the image, because it is a hexagram. It is, you know, this 6-line image. It has a kind of aesthetic, you could say, as much as anything else. And what those two trigrams kind of represent imagistically and also, I guess, elementally. So you have, where the fireweed is, you have the creative heaven. You have this, I guess, this upward reaching potential and, yeah, maybe some sort of fire, but a kind of creative fire, rather than the kinds of less creative fires, the fires of rancor, the fires of blame, envy, disappointment, whatever those are. So you've got that, and then you've got the gentle wind, which, yes, beautiful. It's almost like nature is orchestrating this for us. Is moving above this carpet here of fireweed, this carpet of heaven. And again, it's almost as if those ancient sages were taking this, translating it into this iconic, imagistic representation, but not that far removed from what is already being conveyed, from what is already present in terms of these nature spirits. Max, please do not sniff that, because this is a very, very loose, loosey-goosey. It's a loosey-goosey stand. I've got this thing perched on. Thank you. Okay, so what I do next is read the first paragraph, because often I find even in that the first paragraph seems to be super dense, and also still in the realm of I don't know, oracular wisdom, and maybe not yet shooting off into other wacky realms where this text can also sometimes go. I mean, usefully wacky, but kind of also a little bit like, whoa, what's that, you know, doing there? A little bit sort of Alice in Wonderland wacky. This hexagram means the force of the small, the power of the shadowy that restrains, tames, impedes. Max, leave him. Thank you. I'll be finished in a minute, and then we can do our thing, yeah? This hexagram means the force of the small, the power of the shadowy that restrains, tames, and impedes. So something that is shadowy, something that is small. The hexagram is made up, right, of those mainly yang lines. One of them is the old yang line, which is moving into a yin line, which then creates the next hexagram. But it's made up of yang lines, and you've got what is being denoted here as a kind of a weak line, although in a way this sort of more active yin line, from my understanding, is not, well, weak depending on circumstances. Sometimes, you know, a necessary bending of, a sort of a strong weakness. So here the ruling line, there's something small, a small kind of rupture or something small, but that is essentially deciding whatever stasis or whatever suffering or whatever calcification, I guess, like this tree here, whatever calcification that is going on between these two brothers. In the image, it is the wind blowing across the sky. The wind restrains the clouds, the rising breath of the creative, and makes them grow dense, but as yet is not strong enough to turn them to rain. Again, unfortunately, not much cloud there. You know, nature, it gave us everything, but it left that little bit in the corner there for the CGI. Yeah, what's going on, I guess, these nature spirits, speaking through the sages of old, are saying, is that there is all this potential, there's all this sort of yang energy, but then there is this kind of rupture, or a kind of maybe a wound, even if it's a kind of a pinprick wound, but there's a sort of a wound or a fissure or something like that, very small, that is that's sort of taken the air out of this relationship. You know, like a little pinprick to a rubber dinghy or something like that. And the clouds are the gentle wind, sun. Those are maybe kind of attempting to call forth or draw out some of the fire of this sort of creative energy, maybe in a good way. But at the moment, there's this almost a kind of sense of, I don't know, constipation. I imagine that's how clouds might feel if they're holding a lot of rain and they can't really let it go. And if that's what clouds are made for, you know, rain, that's their way of loving the other elements, then there's a sort of constipation there if it can't actually let any of that out. The wind restrains the clouds, the rising breath of the creative, and makes them grow dense, but as yet is not strong enough to turn them to rain. And I think of rain, and I think of rain also as having a kind of healing power, having a kind of a grace. And I suppose for these two brothers, Joss, what is that sort of healing power of rain? I mean, God forbid it's your demise because you are elderly, you are not in, you know, sort of mountain climbing health. Maybe that rain is also tears. We don't know. I don't know. But this is sort of some of the suggestive semantics that are coming up off the page as I'm reading. The hexagram presents a configuration of circumstances in which a strong element is temporarily held in leash by a weak element. A strong element is temporarily held in leash by a weak element. And I wonder if this also maybe is pointing to a dynamic in the relationship of your two sons. Only you would know maybe what is that strong element that is being held down, or a strong element is temporarily, so it could change, of course. This is the book of changes, everything changes. It's temporarily held in a leash by a weak element. So the weaker, who would be the weaker son, maybe? Do we mean by weaker the younger? The younger son is holding the older son, in a leash in some way. What is that leash? Is it the other way round? I don't know, because I'm a neophyte at this, which is why I am also hopefully going to make some videos with people who have been doing this for years. But I enjoy the process, and that's the main thing. So, it is only through gentleness that this can have a successful outcome. It is only through gentleness. So maybe in terms of actually answering that question, when will my sons talk to each other again? It is only through gentleness. It is not through force. It is not through manipulation. It is not through any of those. It's through this sort of gentle wind that holds the clouds. And the clouds feel a bit constipated, and maybe they feel sad. Maybe there's a sadness in you, Joss, that wants to cry, that wants to also cry for yourself, cry for your sons, cry for the world. And I guess what this is saying is, at least in the first paragraph, I mean, obviously I can send you the rest, you can read it, but I feel it's almost saying enough there to answer that initial, potentially, or to give some pointers to the initial insights that maybe you were wanting to have. I don't know, answers in the comments, please. I was going to read this Jane Kenyon poem, because as I was reading through the whole of the Taming Power of the Small chapter, one of the two chapters in the Yi, I thought of this Jane Kenyon poem, which is this, and it feels like, I guess, I mean, this is a 3,000-year-old text, but I would not be surprised to find this very modern poem sort of in between the verses on Hexagram 9, because it feels of a piece. So the poem's called Small Wire, and it goes, "My faith is a great weight hung on a small wire, as doth the spider hang her baby on a thin web, as doth the vine, twiggy and wooden, hold up grapes like eyeballs, as many angels dance on the head of a pin. Life does not need too much wire to keep itself going. Just a thin vein with blood pushing back and forth in it, and some love, and some gentleness, I guess, is what the yi is saying. As it has been said, love and a cough cannot be concealed. Even a small cough, even a small love. So if you have only a thin wire, if there is only even just a thin wire between these two suns, whatever that thin wire is, maybe just the thin wire of living in the same space and time continuum, love does not mind. So if you have only a thin wire, love does not mind. It will enter your hands as easily as 10 cents used to bring forth a Coke. Cheers.
Behold the herb that healed the armies of Achilles.
If it only could have protected that heel. Bummer.
Yarrow is actually named for the mythological hero Achilles, with its full Latin name actually meaning 1,000 leaves.
It's yarrow.
How does it look if I sort of stand here, or if I stand here? I'm out here on Stanmore Common. It's about 9:30 at night, and I'm hearing what I think is an owl screeching. Do owls screech?
Yes, some owls do screech. Based on your location and the description of the sound, it is likely you are hearing a tawny owl, Strix aluco, or possibly a barn owl, Tyto alba. Tawny owl. Tawny owls are known for their distinctive kiwick call, which is a short screech, and the famous hoo-hoo sound. Habitat, common in woodlands, including areas.
No, there's no hoo-hoo.
Given that there's no who sound, it's more likely that you are hearing a barn owl, Tyto alba. Barn owls are known for their distinctive screeching call, which is often described as a long, harsh scream or shriek. They do not hoot like tawny owls, so your description matches well with a barn owl. Barn owls are nocturnal and often found hunting in open fields and edges of woodlands, which fits the environment of Stanmore Common. The screeching you hear is likely a part of their communication or hunting behavior at night. Enjoy your evening and the sounds of nature.
Wow, thank you, my friend. That was a good. That's the modern oracle, as we know. I was wanting to end this video, Joss, sitting in front of Stanmore Lake, because Stanmore Lake is so peaceful and it has lilies, and you live near Stanmore Lake. It would be tricky, I guess, with Dad on crutches at the moment for you to get there, but if you could get to Stanmore, we could always walk the dogs and walk together to Stanmore Lake. So I wanted to end it sitting in front of, Zen-like, in a lotus pose in front of Stanmore Lake. So I wanted to end this video sitting lotus pose in front of Stanmore Lake, and had it all set up, and this was how it was, going to end. This was the ending. And then we started walking towards Stanmore Lake, and I realized it was actually further away than I thought. And so after a while, it seemed, and it was getting muddy because it's been raining, deluge, Calcutta storms, well, not quite, in the last 5 days. So I realized it wasn't going to happen, or we'd be sitting there in complete darkness. So turning around slightly dejected, I saw these beautiful, beautiful trees, which of course, with my identification skills being next to nothing, how is that possible? Shameful. I had to ask the oracle, what trees are these? To which the oracle said, and of course remember, if we're thinking here that that this is also what the year is about, it's about reading the signs of the landscape and finding some meaning, finding some portent, finding some maybe some soothing in those signs that we see. I guess that's why you and me, because we're related, are sending each other, like poems at the moment, because that is also healing. There's something healing in the making sense of it and receiving some wisdom or whatever it is. So it says, these are silver birch trees. Silver birch trees have distinctive white peeling bark with black fissures. The bark often becomes rougher and darker with age. The leaves are small, triangular and toothed, with a pointed tip. They are bright green in spring and summer, and they turn yellow in autumn. Silver birch trees have a graceful, airy appearance with slender, drooping branches. They can grow up to 30 meters tall with a relatively narrow trunk, etc., etc. And of course, we could read on, but again, maybe even in that description, it might be saying something. It might be saying something about this relationship between your sons. It might be saying something about you and how you're feeling at the moment, or capturing some essence of you, capturing something of you that you need to hold on to, perhaps in some way. What that hexagram transformed into, I don't have my notes now, so I'm just winging it, was hexagram 13, which is community, I believe, something like that. Community, not family, but affiliation, community. And I suppose if you think, again, me just winging it, maybe even just using just one word from this book of changes, that's also sort of saying, hey, how do you move through the changes, the often painful changes of life, of aging, of sickness, all of these things that you're moving through at the moment? How do you move through them? The knowledge that there is some rift between your sons, for example. How does one bear that when there are also other things that one is bearing? So hexagram 13, which is this follow-on from the power of the small. This one is saying something. There needs to be something affiliatory going on. Because how is community built? Community is built at some level. I'm thinking again about these ideas of sort of strong and weak forces and how they work together, the yin and the yang. Community is built by somebody having something that another person needs. And that may even just be, with very small communities, like a sort of sense of safety, like if we all group together. And unfortunately, we've become very dispersed in that way, so we don't need each other in that kind of like one of your sons needing the other son in that way. You know, one of your sons sounds like he's kind of got a bit of a, I don't know, a sort of a therapy vibe to him. So maybe if the other son was needing someone like that, he would turn to his brother maybe for that. Maybe not. But of course now in modern society he can go to a therapist and he doesn't necessarily need to come to the family for that. So there's something about community, there's something about where is your community, and even if your community is with just one or two people, or maybe your community is with your beloved, I'm thinking of Max, your beloved creature companions. I guess 13 is saying to have the bonds, to have really meaningful bonds, there has to be a need. There has to be a need. And I think that's the bond we have. We have a need for each other. And so there's that win-win. Whereas maybe until that need is really arrived at through circumstances or through the changes of life, those pregnant clouds are going to need to maybe hang in the sky and not give birth. But then there's enough rain raining on your parade, Ma, Joss, or as I call you, Ma, at the moment. These are tears that are not should not be shed by you. I think the I Ching is saying, in terms of this idea of gentleness, self-compassion, gentleness also begins at home, begins being gentle with yourself, and then this celebration of community, even if it is the community of nature, which I guess is also what this book is all about.